Hello. Good morning. How's it going? Hello, hello. I'm fashionably late today, but I am here. Hi, Stephanie. How's it going? Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Donna. Hi, Lori. Grand Rising, love. Hello, hello. Hi, Chandrika. Hi, Buffy. Hi, Allison. Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Marissa. Hi, Ariana. Hello, hello. It's good to see you guys. How is everyone? Thank you. Hi, Annie. Hi, Amanda. I am in. I'll give you guys a guess where I'm at right now. Picked up a little souvenir as soon as I got off the plane. I saw it and I was like, oh, look how cute he is. So this is a little guess as to where I am right now. My flight was very well. Thank you. I had a middle seat, so I didn't sleep. But other than that, I'm just happy to be out of my normal zone. It's good to be back in Scotland. As soon as I landed, I was like, yeah, I'm home. Scotland always feels like home to me. No, I'm in Scotland. I'm in Edinburgh, actually. Or as my pilot called it, Edinburgh. He's like, we're going to Edinburgh today. And I was like, ah. How's everyone feeling today? Hi, Summer. Nice to see you, darling. Hi, Erin. What have you guys been up to? I am here for one more week. Just a week. Hi, Helen. Thank you. Aiden's got a thing for stuffies, so it's going into his stuffy collection. I love it. I love Nessie. Nessie is a real thing, by the way. We've asked about Nessie a few times under hypnosis sessions and all sorts of other ways. Nessie is definitely real, just for the record. Hi, Adriana. I did not get a chance to watch the podcast last night because I had terrible reception in the airport last night. How did your podcast go, Adriana? I'm excited to see it. Anybody watch the podcast last night with Adriana and Michael? I'm excited to see it today. You're getting a new puppy, Summer. Oh, congratulations. Blue heelers are so great too. Wonderful dogs. Hi, Grant. Nice to see you. Hi, Leanne. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Karen. It's a temporary background. I'm in a different country today. Is Nessie still alive? Hi, Jordan, sweetie. How are you feeling? Nessie is totally still alive. There's lots of Nessies. In fact, the Great Lakes, ironically, also have a Nessie. There's also one in Lake Baikal. Lake Baikal. Am I saying that right? I think so. Apparently, all these giant, like the deepest lakes in the world, were all interconnected, and Nessie could travel in between them before they got cut off. So, yeah, Nessie is totally a thing. They are real. Although they're not plesiosaurs. A lot of people think of them as plesiosaurs because they got the little these, but no, technically they don't have legs. According to what we've learned through hypnosis and asking the guides. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different types of Nessies all over the world. But they call it Loch Ness because that was the most famous one. But yeah, in the Great Lakes, yep, there's some. All the deepest lakes. There's one I believe they said somewhere in South America as well. So they're all kind of linked together. The ones in the Great Lakes is an old sturgeon. Grant says, I love Edinburgh, especially the view up to the castle. You want to see the view from my balcony, Grant? Just because you said it, I'll show you. This is the first picture I took when I got here. That is the view from my balcony if you go outside. Yay! So yeah, I'm right up by the castle. I'm gonna ghost bust it. Actually, I need to be kind of about it though. My guides were like, shh, don't tell anybody what you were gonna do until after you do it. I was like, okay. So yes, I will be doing ghost busting. I just won't tell you guys where just yet. But I'm very excited about it. And I already picked up an Earthbound, like within, because I was having a cup of coffee and just kind of chilling, waiting for my Airbnb to be ready. And I kept getting goosebumps like every 30 seconds. It was driving me nuts. So I texted Carolyn and I was like, can you just clear me really quick? And she's like, yep, one Earthbound. I'm like, I knew it. I knew it. So I've already cleared one Earthbound and I just got here. Like, hi, Walter. Nice to see you. What am I doing there? I am going to the Beltane Fire Festival. That is why I'm here. And so for those of you who have no idea what the Beltane Fire Festival is, I'll show you. So one day, 10 years ago, like almost exactly, I was walking through Edinburgh because I lived here for a while. It's a long story about why I lived in Edinburgh, but I did for quite a while and I enjoyed it very much. I lived throughout the winter here, so that was kind of interesting being here. So I was kind of walking around. It was getting to be really nice weather, and it was April 30th. And I was like, just kind of enjoying myself wandering around town. And I'm walking by this place called Carlton Hill. And as I'm looking up Carlton Hill, I see torches like going up around the spiral of the hill. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So my curiosity got the better of me and I started following the torches. I was like, I'll go up this mysterious hill with torches lit. So I started following up around the hill. And as you get to the top of the hill, the torches ended up turning into like these big bison skulls. And like they were all aflame, like they had all these like fires around. And I was like, what is going on? And then I get to the top of the hill and I found a festival going on. And it's called the Beltane Fire Festival. It's one of the oldest festivals in the world. It's originally celebrated in Ireland, but it was a really big thing here in Scotland as well. So it is a big hill where people basically get naked and use a bunch of fire shit. Like, this is kind of giving you the vibe of what it's going to be like when you go up there. Because that's what I did. I got to the top of the hill, and then I noticed there were people everywhere, like fire eaters. And I mean, it was crazy. They had like this giant steampunk dragon thing that came out, and it was breathing actual fire. And there were like 20 people that were controlling this giant dragon. And I was like, where the fuck am I? Like, this is crazy. And I didn't even know it was like a pagan festival. And it was one of the coolest things I'd ever experienced. And I've been wanting to go back ever since, but I wanted to plan it ahead of time and get to know what I was going to get into. And so, yeah, I mean, they have this big ceremony with the green man, and he comes out, and then you get my, what do you call it? Pachamama is what I call her, but Mother Gaia comes out and does this big thing. And it's a really, really cool pagan ceremony. So I just love pagan festivals as well, Michelle. So that's why I'm here. And I'm going to go to the festival, and then I'm also going to be doing ghost busting around here. I want to kind of de-haunt some of these places around here that have a lot of earthbounds, a lot. So, like I said, I picked up one literally just walking the streets not even like an hour ago. So, Glasgow is cool too, but Glasgow is a little harder it's a little harder to navigate. There's more shady areas in Glasgow. I love how you're like, it's hard to know what they're saying. You're so funny. I have the Scottish accent. I don't know if it's because I lived here for so long, but I have no problem understanding Scots. It's people from Newcastle. That's a different story. It's the Geordies I don't understand. No offense to any Geordies that might be listening. I had a friend who just got back from Scotland. She said it seems that people are no longer as friendly as they used to be while out and about with neighbors and even with strangers. Have you found that to be the case? Not really, no. To be honest, Scottish people have always just kind of been Scottish people. Like they haven't changed much. And that's why I adore them so much. Like I got off of the plane and I'm sitting in a taxi and I'm chatting with my taxi driver and he asked me why I'm here and I told him about the festival and he's like, "I've never been there." And he's like Googling it and we're chatting about it. And I was just having the biggest laugh with him. I had the greatest taxi ride this morning, just having a laugh with the driver who's a local. They're just fun. I love Scottish people. I really do. They are great fun. So no, I haven't met any rude people yet, actually. There was one guy that was kind of grumpy. I didn't buy anything in his old bookstore, but his books were all about war. So I'm not looking for those kind of books. So other than that, no, everybody's been really lovely. I'm trying not to use an accent because I always develop an accent. As soon as I get somewhere else, I start picking up the accent and I don't like it. I'm trying not to stick out like a sore thumb. Thank you so much for the clearing on my daughter's school. You're so welcome, Margarita. Did anybody watch that Lost Soul Rescue from yesterday? It was amazing. Speaking of which, we did clear a place in Scotland. We cleared that Overton Bridge, the one that I was talking about the other day, where they call it like Doggy Suicide Bridge because people would, go for a walk near the bridge and their dog would jump off the bridge. And for the longest time, like it just kept happening over and over and nobody really understood why. And then we went and did the clearing yesterday and we found there was a curse on the land. There were a bunch of entities that were luring the dogs over and there were portals all over. And that was a bit messy. So we cleared Overton Bridge and then we went and cleared 2 schools, which was also fantastic. So it really does show the difference, though, because we cleared one school in Canada that was like a normal modern day children's school, and there were only 35 earthbounds in it. We cleared an Indigenous school, and there were 300. So it is very curious why there were 10 times more deceased children in the Indigenous school than there was in the normal everyday Canadian school. So the treatment obviously was very different between these. But still, even having that many earthbounds in one school, 350 was crazy. So I saw the post at 2 a.m. when I got woken up. So hoping I get alone time to watch it. Yeah, it's definitely a tearjerker. But you get used to these things. Like, I don't know what it is. It's almost like you develop a thicker skin after a while to these things. Because me being an empath, everything used to make me cry. Like everything. Everything would make me cry. And then for a while, I just was like, and then I shut it down, and nothing would make me cry. And now I'm getting back into the everything makes me cry phase again a little bit. So I'm trying to kind of like, because these earthbound checks are really emotional, especially the children, especially crossing over all those kids. Because especially when you start developing your mediumship and then you can see what what they're talking about, what they're describing with your remote viewing. Because all of you can do that. Every single one of you can remote view. So the more you tune into something energetically, the more you're able to kind of suss out, what's going on intuitively. Hello, Holly. Nice to see you. Dreams my teeth fell out last night. That was one of the worst dreams I ever had in my entire life, was where I lost all my teeth. That was a terrible one. Like I woke up screaming, feeling my teeth to make sure they were still there. So yeah, those kind of dreams are awful. I'm not entirely sure the meaning. I think the reason I experienced mine was because it was how I died in one of my past lives. Can pregnant women participate in SRT training? Of course, absolutely. Yep. Nothing's gonna, that honestly, like, there's a couple people that have asked, like, can you do clearings on pregnant women? Yes, absolutely. In fact, it's a pretty good idea. Y'all were attuned already, right? Most people. There's still one more attunement ceremony that'll be on the 26th. So that's tomorrow. So, and I am going to do my best to be there. I think I will be. Glad to see you looking so fresh. Your vibe is different today. Thank you, Amma. I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy to be in Scotland. It's my favorite country. It really is. I just love Scotland so much. I think I had a lot of past lives here. In fact, some of my favorite past lives were also here. So that's why it's like, it is. It's like coming home. Every time I hear a Scottish accent when I'm here, I'm like, ah, my peoples. I am 33% Scottish, so that's the most percentage that I have. The rest of it is all mixed. So maybe it's just my blood that's happy to be here. But yeah, definitely feels good. There's a little Scottish witch trial, or sorry, museum in Fife. Yes, I know. I know all about it. I've been doing some digging in on some of these witch trials because I plan on crossing over a lot of witches this weekend. Just up the street, there are 300 witches that were burned outside the castle. 300 in one spot. I'm trying to build my way up to it. Like, I'm doing smaller little niches here and there, and then I'm gonna whack some big spots. Like the day I leave, I'm like, hit them hard and then run. It's like guerrilla warfare. Get in, get them out, and then go. Because yeah, sometimes when you clear a big space, there is a little bit of backlash, and you get some psychic attacks because they're like, "Who's done this? Why is all of this clear? Where did all the earthbounds and beasties go?" And then little old me's residual energy is there, and they're like, "Uh-huh." So this is why sometimes it's best to leave the big stuff for the last day, right before you leave. I missed the very last land clearing, but the rest went so well. You and your team are so wonderful. Thank you, Karen. I'm so proud of so far. Like, honestly, we've come so far in such a short period of time. So many mediums are coming forward right now. People that their mediumship wasn't even fully developed until recently, and then all of a sudden they're like rock stars. Like it's doing amazing. Like, it's just unbelievable how quickly those doors can open for you once you're prepared for it. Grief and stress, overwhelming changes in your life that you've had no control over. Oh, is that the dream interpretation? Thank you, Rachel. You're so sweet. Thank you for that compliment. Takes one to know one. I wonder if something is messing with y'all's shoulder and hope to prevent you from using Reiki. Well, I missed something. I was a teacher in a castle during medieval times. One of my guides now is a bestie from that time. Interesting. I bet most of you have had past lives in some kind of, medieval castle situation. Leanne and I are having shoulder trouble. Well, we could all send you some Reiki, Michelle. You want a Reiki ball? I'll send you one for Leanne as well. So my favorite way to do a Reiki ball, you rub your hands together, and then you could already feel the energy building in your hands. And you fill it. Kind of like a balloon, like you're filling the balloon. Ooh, that's a good one. I can literally feel the heat from that. This is going to be a good one. So you fill it with all of your love and intentions, and then you get the ball nice and big, and then you see the person in your mind's eye. I'm seeing Michelle standing over her organite. And then I send it. Sent straight to Michelle with love. And I'll do one for Leanne as well. How have you been feeling, by the way, Jordan? Anything? Is things getting better? Have you seen any more creepy stuff going on? This one is for you, Leanne. Seeing Leanne in the mind's eye. You just fill the Reiki ball with all kinds of color and light. You can even put symbols in there. And then send it. Sent. I love you too. Would being sick in our attunement have made a difference? No, in fact, you'd probably feel better after that. It'll probably help your cold get over quicker. Just reading the comments. Did you guys have any other questions about that? I'm happy to answer any questions about the Reiki course or anything like that. I did some medical exams because I felt pressure on my left side of my chest, but everything was fine. Now I feel it again. Do you think it could be a psychic attack? Actually, it's interesting. A lot of people have been getting that recently. In fact, I was literally talking about this with Bradley last night because Bradley was working, and as he's working, he felt his heart like it was like a burst of energy or something, or like a heart palpitation. And we were talking about it, and we asked the guides before about it, and they said it's actually a heart chakra opening. So if it's not coupled with anxiety, usually, you know how I notice is because it's just like one little extra, it's not like the pressure, because sometimes you do get heart palpitations with psychic attacks, but the heart palpitations are immediately followed by pressure. Like it feels like there's a weight pushing down on your chest. And then your heart will usually keep pounding, right? And this morning, as I was walking around and I picked up that Earthbound and I sat down, by the way, thank you, Carolyn, for removing it for me. And as I'm walking around, all of a sudden, goosebumps. And I know exactly where I picked it up too, because I went to a metaphysical shop. And as soon as I started picking up stuff in the metaphysical shop, I went and got a new tarot deck today. And as soon as I picked that up, I got chills. And I was like, ooh, maybe this is the tarot deck I was supposed to get today. So I'm like, all right. So as I'm holding the tarot deck, I pay for it, chills again. And I was like, all right. And as I'm walking off, chills again. I keep walking. Every 30 seconds, I was getting chills. And I was like, am I cold? Like, what is going on? So I walked all the way back here, got my jacket. I'm wandering around. I go for another cup of coffee somewhere. And I'm sitting there and all of a sudden chills and then I felt like head to toe goosebumps. And that's when I was like, all right, Carolyn, can you please save me? Can you get this thing off me? And sure enough, there was an Earthbound. I could sense it, like, because you can feel when something is affecting your energy. So you do have the heart palpitations, but the goosebumps are a big notice. And also tingles. Like, if you guys ever get tingles on the back of your head, that is another sign. Because it's another confusing thing, because sometimes the tingles can be something coming into your etheric, or sometimes it can be your crown chakra opening. So it could be anything. I would scrub your shoulder down. Like if you're saying you have shoulder pain, like there, I would take sea salt and scrub it down. And you can visualize removing your own implants too. You can ask your guides to remove them. You can visualize, ask the guides, because I'm like Miss Independent over here. I don't really like having to ask for help every single day. So I asked them once before, I'm like, how can I remove my own implants? And they said, well, if you're sovereign, you can do it. And I said, well, okay, well, how do I do that? And they said, well, just imagine a big vacuum or some kind of a suction thing. And just imagine it taking it off. And apparently it works. You can clear AI too. They said to visualize bubbles. That was a good tip from Merlin, by the way, to visualize the bubbles coming out of your hand, and the bubbles are clearing everything around the computer. So it's like visualize shooting bubbles out of your hands, and that will actually clear a lot of the bad juju on your electronics. You never know these tips, eh? I like to do things myself. Thank you. And it's funny, I was asking the guides, like, how do you repair your etheric then? Like, so I don't have to ask you to do that, And they're like, well, you just visualize. What is it called when you take that? It's like Japanese pottery repair, where they fix broken pottery with gold. So you fix your own etheric. You just visualize the cracks in your etheric, the holes in your etheric, mending with golden light, like it's being sealed with gold and then fixed again. And then done. So you don't always need your soul guides for these things. You can do a lot of stuff yourself. In fact, that's what they want you to do eventually. Kintsugi, that's the one. Yes. Thank you, whoever Googled it. Thank you, or at least did you do that? So yeah, you can also, like I said, you can fix all kinds of stuff for yourself. Most of the things you have going on, you can even clear. In fact, it's kind of funny. I've actually for a while I just call in my guides and clear. But if I'm not sovereign, it's different. Because then they're like, can't hear you. What? Did you guys see in the video that we had yesterday, that Lost Soul Rescue, that we checked on this guy who died in World War II and he still wasn't crossed over? That one got me a little bit like triggered. If you noticed, I was a bit like, what the fuck? Because I mean, this poor guy, we checked in on him and he had been in a jar for 80 years. And when I say a jar, I wonder like if it was an actual jar, like, because in the visuals, what you visualize in your head, you manifest in the astral. So if an entity wanted to put a giant jar in the astral and shove you inside the jar and then seal the lid and keep you in the fucking jar, apparently they can do that. Which kind of blew my mind a lot, because I'm like, 80 years in a jar? Like, I wonder if it even felt like 80 years. So, I don't know. Lindsay says, how do we clear imposters? You can't. Not that I'm aware of. I have yet to see anyone clear their own imposter. Imposter guides, the problem with imposter guides is that they come in and they kick out your other guides. So you're basically, you're muzzled. You're in a jar, basically, because you can shout all you want. Nobody's going to hear you. None of your guides are going to hear you. In fact, they didn't even know. I've a couple times where people have been basically muzzled. That's what I call it, muzzling, or they basically like this. And you're cut off, like you can't reach your guides. And I'll contact the guides for them. I'll contact their own guides through another medium. And I'll be like, hey, have you noticed your person is compromised? And they're like, no, we thought everything was fine. Because the entities can do weird things. Like they even do this, it's like this looping thing. So, you know how when in like spy movies, whenever somebody's trying to break into an area with high security and they've got like this really intricate like camera system, and so the spies go in and they change the cameras to put on a loop, right? So it looks like the same thing is happening, like everything is quiet, but they're actually busting in there. You know, so it's like a looped camera feed. They do that in the astral as well. So I'll be like telling the guides, like, hey, your person is under attack right now through another medium. And they'll be like, what are you talking about? We didn't know that. And then they'll check in, and sure enough, they'll see that there's actually like an overlay that's fitting over the loop. So that's basically what it is. They're looping the security feed. So when the guide goes in, sees that it's looped, then they remove the overlay and then they clear all the stuff. But while you're in that loop, like you're stuck. Jessica says, oh, great. So they're tech savvy. This is the thing, right? The astral, you don't need to be like a computer programmer type. You just visualize and you manifest. So the entities manifest technology in the astral. This is one of the reasons why they have AI now, because the AI can bridge both the physical and the astral. So all the tech stuff that they can manifest is technically like astral AI. And they can have anything they want. Like most of the time we find recording devices, we find tracking devices, we find beacons. But we find some really weird tech stuff. Like they do experiments on people. There's all kinds of, if there's grays in your house, for example, you may as well have a junkyard in your house worth of technology. Because they do. The grays are crazy like that. They'll bring in all kinds of stuff and you won't even know it's there. It's in the astral. But you're literally in a house full of weird ET technology and laboratory equipment, and you don't even know it's in there. So have you listened to the telepathy tapes? Absolutely. They're phenomenal. Allison says, will the imposter guides lie to you then? Yes. That is what they do best. Because the imposter guides, they are there to manipulate and trick you. They're not there to be like, oh, I'm here to run your life and own your ass. They won't tell you that overtly. They don't want you to know they're even there. In fact, there's a couple times where I'll check a medium because sometimes the mediums, like, they feel fine. They feel 100% fine. But sometimes they start giving out inaccurate information and you're like, how is this inaccurate? Like, what? Like yesterday, this medium was giving all 100% accurate information. So how come today they're not? Because we can fact check things. I mean, two Akashic records, when you have one medium going into the Akashic records and another medium going into the Akashic records, they should be seeing the same thing. So if one is seeing something that's completely not possible or weird, we're like, okay, this is really bizarre. And then we'll check the medium's guides and authenticate, and then sure enough, they'll be an imposter. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen on occasion. Any medium can be compromised, no matter how good the medium is. In fact, I'm probably one of the best mediums in the world, still has to worry about this, unfortunately. I wouldn't say worry, just has to be cautious of who you're talking to and how you validate it. Amanda says, are the little grays good, guys, like Dolores thought? There are 165 different types of gray. 165. According to the Tegetans, to the Pleiadians. And so, yeah, it depends on the race. The ones that Dolores knew about, those are what we call the Zeta Reticulans. They're the tiny little ones, the 3-foot ones with the big almond-shaped eyes, and then they have very narrow cheeks, and they're the hive-minded ones. They're not like sentient. In fact, they're pretty much like organic machines. They're part of a network. In fact, you do one thing to one Zeta Reticulan and they all know about it because they all have a hive mind. So just be aware of that. But no, most of the time the Zetas, they call those the gardeners, and they tend to leave people alone. It's the hybrids that mess with people. Christine says not 50 shades of gray. No, 165 shades of gray. Yes. And I'm sure many of them are very nice and probably leave us humans alone, but there are several that do not. So they look like ET. They look like all kinds of different ones. There's some of them that are like 9 foot tall as well. You get the tall grays too. Those are not usually very nice. It depends on the race. And they monitor everything. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a gray listening to our conversation right now. They do. They listen. They monitor everything. In fact, most of the time when we find beacons, it's either a gray or a reptilian that are putting them there. So they do kind of, no, actually, no, they don't look like ET. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a gray that looks like ET. They all kind of look similar to what you, like in the movie Paul. You guys ever seen Paul? Kind of like that. Astral gnats are very common. Astral bugs, I think, once we start moving into 5D, I have a feeling that's the one thing we're going to see most. Just like astral insects. All these freaky astral bugs and stuff. Mm-hmm. And what was the other thing? Oh yeah, did you guys see that little creature that I posted last night? There was like this little creature guy. He must have been like what, this tall in the video? If you guys didn't see that one, make sure that you go back on my page and just scroll down a little bit to have a look, because that is one of the weirdest creatures. In fact, I'll even show you again while I'm here. This is one of the weirdest creatures. Like, I bet you it's a brownie. That was my first thought. Although brownies are usually taller than this. So I'll turn the volume down. Look at that little thing. Look at him go. Like, what the hell was that? You can see his little feet. Like, look at his little feet. Some people are like, hedgehog. Fuck no, that is not a hedgehog. That thing is bipedal. It is walking on two, unless it's a hedgehog that somebody trained to walk upright. And it was carrying something. Exactly. It looked like it was carrying something. So some people said it was an owl. What? Really? Groundhog? No, that was not a groundhog. It could have been a little hedgehog, like walking on its. Because we've seen animals do weird shit before, especially if their front legs were damaged in some way. They do. I mean, that was moving. It does make you wonder. I think it was a fae, personally. I've seen quite a bit of fae outside of my peripheral, but on camera, sometimes people pick up all kinds of stuff. No, I don't get owl from that. I does not look even slightly like an owl to my brain. Nope. Hi, Ariel. So, any other questions while we're just hanging out? Oh, Maria's got one. Random question. Is hoarding connected to entity attachment? Oh, yes, big time. That is why sometimes the soul guides will rat you guys out and be like, they need to clean their house. So if you ever see in your report where they say declutter in the aftercare advice, they're calling you messy in a nice way. So the guides are like, no, they need to clear their shit out because, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can come in. And the reason for that is, think about it. Every time you pick up something, right? Like, even if it's just something like your phone, you are imbuing it with your energy. So what if it's an object like this little guy that I got at the store this morning? Let's say 50 people came into the store today and touched this little Nessie, right? And if I didn't clear this, which I mean, I can do that right now, like just by doing this, cleared, do the bubbles, you can clear it, visualize it. So if I didn't clear this thing could have had like 100 people's energy on it, right? And then you bring it into the house. And then you bring it into the house where you've got all the other stuff that has other people's energy. This is why we're saying you should be smudging stuff, especially, it doesn't matter if it's brand new or used or anything. We have found some of the weirdest objects cursed in people's houses. Like beauty products. I found cursed beauty products. I found cursed markers. And I'm like, what the hell? How is this possible? Well, the beauty stuff was cursed because of jealousy. Apparently, when somebody went to, like, I don't know, Sephora or something to buy makeup, they bought makeup that somebody had cursed through intention because it was too expensive for them or something. And they were just like, nah, fuck that makeup. And then they cursed it. And then this person was wondering why, whenever they were using the makeup that they've used for a long time, their face would break out in rashes and stuff. And like, this is so bizarre. So the markers, guess why the markers were cursed? They were made with slave labor. So little, I don't know, slave children that were making the markers probably, and wherever they came from, yeah, that negative energy was imbued into the markers. So think about all the things that you have in your house. Now think of all the things that you have in your house that other people have touched before. All of that energy is sitting in that space like a soup. And then let's say you keep buying more stuff, piling it on top of the stuff you already have. Well, all of that energy is piling on top of that energy, right? And so you have all of this mix of energy. And then all of that moving energy ends up opening portals. Because when you have all of this stagnant energy and the energy isn't flowing properly, this is why everybody talks about feng shui and including food. Thank you, Stephanie. Yep, absolutely true. So all of that energy ends up creating like this soup of stuff. And the more you don't cleanse your things, the more you have clutter laying around. And the less feng shui your house is, that energy doesn't have a way of flowing properly. So what does it do? It opens a fucking portal. Especially in closets, cluttered closets, under beds. So the main areas for opening portals is electronics, because your electronics will open portals like crazy, and your cluttered areas in your house. So any cluttered closets and stuff, your cluttered basement. My guys were giving me so much shit about my basement for a while. Because I haven't lived in my house that long, okay? Maybe like a year and a half. And there's still some stuff in my basement that I have not even bothered to unpack yet, because I'm like, if I needed it to the point where I've gone down in my basement looking for it, then I don't need it at all. So I'm just going to keep it in storage until I have, like, I don't know, a garage sale or something. So I have a lot of stuff just in boxes downstairs, and it's kind of neat. It's in the corner, back corner of my garage basement, but then my guides are like, Laura, your basement is a wreck. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a wreck? They're like, no, you got all this stuff in there. And I'm like, it's neat. It's in a box. They're like, no, you got portals in there. You need to go smudge your stuff. You got all kinds of things down there. So yeah. So that's why a lot of people say that minimalist lifestyle tends to be less stressful, because you don't have as much clutter around the house. And yeah, some people like that. Some people like to have, this is why some people fill their houses with antiques. It's almost like they like the energy that is attached to the object. Some people actually really enjoy that. It's almost like having a house full of people. You never really feel alone when you have all of those people's energy on all of the stuff all around you. Dana says, but what if you have a toddler who loves throwing things around, flowing energy in his own way? Well, children raise the vibration of the space. Children have very powerful high vibrations, which is one of the reasons why many of them stay sovereign naturally. Their natural high vibration protects them. So children coming into a space, as long as they're not wrecking the space and causing pure chaos, children actually do raise the vibe of the whole, the whole household. In fact, I know one of my clients was really struggling with sovereignty for a long time. She kept, having more and more attacks. But then as soon as there was a baby born in the house, she became a grandmother. All of a sudden, the entities started going away. And I started asking the guides, how is she staying sovereign? They're like, she's happy. She's happy, and she has this beautiful little bundle of joy that is bringing so much high frequency energy into the home. And it actually helped. I mean, that little guy's energy is actually helping his grandmother stay sovereign just by being this adorable, high vibe little cute thing. So this is why I say, Taylor says, teenagers, it's different. I think something happens when you're about 10 years old. After 10, this is why I say I clear people in the house. Most of the time, if you're under the age of 10, they're probably going to be sovereign. They might have some past life stuff to clear. So if you're curious about whether or not your children have some kind of contract, or if they have some kind of a curse or something they brought with them from a past life, then that is a whole nother story, obviously. But generally, most children under the age of 10 tend to stay sovereign because they're just high frequency. They're happy. They haven't had the world crush their spirit yet. So, they haven't had to worry about stuff. The school hasn't been, making them do piles of homework yet. So generally, like my little guy, he's 9 years old. He's a happy chappy. He's always just, running around with a big smile on his face. And if we adults were doing that, if we weren't stressing about jobs and work and people pleasing and all the other shit that goes along with being an adult, we would be running around all happy and be fine too. Jessica says they haven't had to pay taxes yet. Exactly. But what's interesting about teenagers is that everything changes as soon as you're a teenager, because the hormones start kicking in, school starts getting crazier, you end up having more drama in your life, you end up having more responsibilities, more chores, more roles, more all kinds of things going on. So all of that pressure ends up lowering the vibration of teenagers, putting them under stress. Hormones are probably the worst part of it too. The hormones that teenagers go through are intense, and that's why a lot of teenagers do. That's why they have this going on in their life, especially if they're empathic, because a lot of people do not even have spiritual gifts activated until they're in their teens. So you'll notice your teenager starts to get really sensitive, and you're like, what is going on with you? Why are you so sensitive? It could be hormones, or it could be emotions. It could just literally be an empath, and they start pulling in the emotions of other people, which can be really overwhelming to somebody that doesn't know how to kind of control that. So, and what else is interesting? So if you read the book Between Death and Life by Dolores Cannon, there is a chapter on there where they were talking about poltergeists and ghosts and stuff. And poltergeists are very interesting beings. They are earthbounds from Atlantis. But one of the cool things that Dolores talked about in the book was that whenever there's suspected poltergeist activity, she would actually ask if there were any hormonal teenagers, any puberty dealing with teenagers in the house. And they were like, why would some teenager why would that even be a factor? And they said, because teenagers can go through so much of an emotional shift when they're going through that they can actually develop telekinesis without even knowing that they're doing it. And for a long time, I gaslighted myself because I saw shit fly around in my house. When I was a teenager, I brought, as many of you are already aware of the story, I brought the poltergeist in the house with an Ouija board unknowingly. And then I would see shit flying around my house, right? So when I read that part of Dolores talking about how sometimes the actual blame is a hormonal teenager who doesn't know that they can manipulate objects with their mind. So you tend to kind of be like, what? So when I read that, I immediately started gaslighting myself even more. And I was like, wow, maybe I wasn't dealing with a poltergeist. Maybe I was just mega minding without knowing it. But nope, it's been validated. There was definitely a poltergeist in there. So it does make you wonder, like, how come hormonal teenagers are able to move objects? But this is not for all of them, obviously. This is the really rare occasions that this happens. And they basically express that children that are extremely powerfully psychically, I should say, they aren't even aware of it most of the time. And it fans in with their emotions too. A lot of their ability is tied into their emotions. So they're highly emotional when these things are happening. So it's not like they could just move a pencil with their mind when they're focusing on it. It's more like they can make things fly off the shelf because they're having a fit. They're like in a rage, tossing shit. Like they're already mad and like flipping out. And the next thing you know, stuff's flying off the shelves. And you're like, so this is why, like, people have no idea. Like the Matilda movie. I loved that movie as a kid. That was one of my favorite movies. I still think about Mrs. Trunchbull all the time. Daniel Jackson says there is no spoon. Exactly, Daniel Jackson. Love that. Is there a real deer? No, it's not a real deer. Nope. That's Scotland for you. There's deer everywhere. Big ones. But no, that would be like a fairy deer. It's only this big. Any other questions? Anything else you guys want to talk about? Trunchbull scared me so bad. Same here. Same here. That one scene where she spins the girl around by her braids. I used to love my hair in braids, and I was like, I was so messed up by that movie, but I loved it. Real deer have beers in Scotland. Yes. Yes. Can I drink kombucha in lieu of having coffee before the Reiki attunement? I need something to keep me awake. I don't see why not, Grant. Don't see why not. Dana says, hi, Dana. What are your thoughts on microdosing? I've actually talked to the soul guides about that a few times. So as you guys are already probably well aware, I'm a bit of a psychonaut. I just love psychedelics and always have. And so I've probably tripped more than like 300, 400 times in my life, like easily. Like that, I'm not even kidding. So the reason for the microdosing is that it's less of a stress on the body. So rather than taking 3 to 5 grams when you sit down to have an experience, you can split that 3 to 5 grams over the course of like 30 to 40 days. And that actually does the same thing, if not better, for your mind, because psychedelics do open doors in your mind. And they're very powerful for healing. They are very powerful for a lot of things. They raise your vibration drastically too. Sometimes a bit too much, which is why that you get the nausea so badly. But yeah, a lot of people believe that that is actually one of the best things that you can take for your spiritual development. But you have to do it very carefully. Otherwise, you can open too many doors too quickly, if you know what I mean. And then the next thing you know, you're, yeah, you're dealing with psychosis, because yes, absolutely believe that, you know, certain drugs can create psychosis. And the reason for that is because you get, I mean, the human mind itself is extremely powerful, but extremely fragile at the same time. So even though we can do incredible things with our mind, we can break it very easily. So this is why moderation is kind of the better thing for a lot of people. Just kind of do it on an even keel rather than. So you just take it lower amount rather than doing this. I generally do tend to partake on the Sabbats. So that's about every 8 weeks or so that I generally tend to meet with the old gods, so to speak. So I do prefer to kind of microdose though, because I feel it's more effective long term. Um, I heard it's good for anxiety and PTSD. Oh yeah, it's good for addiction and all kinds of stuff. Trauma. But you want to do it kind of delicately and carefully, like I said, especially if you're trying to heal with it, because if you take too much and you're trying to heal your trauma, you can end up triggering your trauma even worse. But the same thing is ironically that hypnosis can do the same thing. So if you don't have a good hypnotist, if somebody just knows how to get you under and they don't know what to do once you're under and they don't know how to lead the session very well, it's quite easy to, and I've seen this before, where people will go into a past life, they'll go through the death experience again. So they'll re-experience how they died in a previous lifetime. And then rather than healing it, it's like that wound is left open. That's an open, gaping wound somewhere in the subconscious. And you just re-triggered it. So it's almost like you redid the wound fresh again in that person's mind. So instead of healing it, you can very easily, end up causing the same trauma that occurred in a past life and bringing that trauma into this lifetime, which is why a lot of times the soul guides are like, certain things should just be left alone, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this is another reason why it's really good to have a hypnotist that knows what they're doing. And psychedelics can do the exact same thing, just for the record. Because whenever you're and you can even have that happen in your dream state. You can astral travel and go visit another version of yourself and experience that. How about those who have only had imprints, no past lives? An imprint is a past life. An imprint is an experience. A past life is an experience. They're both experiences. It's just that one is your experience and one has become your experience. Because as soon as you download that imprint, you may as well have experienced it yourself. You can't even really tell the difference. You can check your Akashic record. That's the only place that you'll be able to know whether or not it was an imprint or a real memory. Because you could go into an imprint and visualize it as a past life memory, and it's going to be the same as all the other real past life memories you have. So there's a lot of people that are healing karma just from their imprints. You'd be there's star seeds that have never been here before, and they have karma that they're healing because their imprints were so traumatic. So if you have an imprint, it's still just as real as a past life because it was downloaded. It was basically a borrowed memory. So it becomes just as real. This is why you end up having the karma. Everything that you download with your imprint ends up becoming a part of you. And you know what else is interesting, right? So I had this one person that I did a clearing on, and she had a past life resonance trauma. And so I asked what it was, and they said that she was crucified. And I was like, damn, like crucified? Like hung? Yeah, like crucified. And I'm like, okay, yikes. So she had all kinds of problems with her hands, right? She was a Reiki healer, and yet I forget, no, she wasn't a Reiki healer. She was doing some kind of healing. I can't remember what it was. But her hands just weren't working with her. Like it was big problem. So that was one of her questions is what's going on with my hands? And so we found out that, yeah, there was trauma because the spikes were put into her hands. And so I asked, like, why did this happen? And they said, well, technically it's an imprint. And I was like, she has trauma from an imprint? They're like, yeah. And I was like, what was the imprint? And then they told me the crucifixion. And I was like, so was she like around in Jesus's time? And they said, no, that was the imprint that she downloaded. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, Jesus, Yeshua, she downloaded that imprint. And I was like, how many people have downloaded Jesus's imprint? Like Yeshua's imprint, his life experience, they downloaded it as their own. And they're like, oh, tons of people have done that. So it reminds me of Total Recall. But again, we're going back to Total Recall again, because if you think about it, it's stored in the database. So your experience is uploaded. And if people think you're a cool person, they can become you. So technically, like let's say 100 years from now or whatever, linearly, somebody says, I want to have a Lara Star imprint. So this is also what causes confusion between twin flames too, just for the record, because you'll be like, oh, we've got the same memories. Look at that. She was also Cleopatra in her past life. And if she was Cleopatra and I was Cleopatra, we must be twin flames. No, you just downloaded the same imprint. And there could have been tens of thousands of people that downloaded the Cleopatra imprint because they felt like it. Like, but keep in mind, every time you download those things, you end up taking karma, you take history, you take trauma, you take experience. Some people probably, I mean, if you think about it, how many people probably downloaded imprints from Michelangelo or something simply because they wanted experience and knowing how to paint? And then all of a sudden, there's all these people that are being born that paint like Michelangelo. And they're like, this is really interesting. A lot of people are into his stuff. Like, yeah. Oh no, so now we heal other people's wounds? That's intense. Jessica, remember, there are no other people. Technically, this is why you guys can do this. Because there are no micro to macro, technically, there are no other people. You are you, but you are also source, and so is everyone else. So I am you, you are me, and we are all together, as the Beatles would say. How do you avoid downloading imprints? You can't really. Especially for you starseeds that have been here before, you're technically, you had to have some kind of an experience to know what you were getting yourself into down here. We sometimes have research lifetimes, but research lifetimes are very short. Like most of the time, people don't live past 30 if it's a research lifetime. So rather than having a research lifetime, they're just like, oh, I'm just going to get an imprint. That's fine. So they'll download, sometimes it'll be 10, 20, 30 imprints because you're like, well, that's 10, 20, 30 lifetimes worth of experience that I am bringing to the table now. So imprints are technically a good thing. However, think of it this way, right? Like you chose to be you. In order to be you, you had to choose the family that would make you, technically. I'm talking about your vessel, by the way. It's not you spiritually, I mean you physically, right? So all of that energy, all of that creation comes together from intention. So you had to kind of choose who you were going to be. And if you're going to be born into a certain family, that family is going to come with pros and cons, right? Especially some of us starseeds, there's not that many people available to choose from in a certain vessel, certain situation. So we choose a family that would best serve the purpose that we're coming in here for, right? So there's a lot of people that end up choosing things, even though there's some negative connotations that go along with it. So they'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to be born into this family. This is going to be a financially independent family, so they're going to be wealthy, but they're all going to be alcoholics. So it's like catch-22. Like, yeah, I'll be raised well. I'm going to have money. I'll be able to have money when I'm older from the trust fund that my parents will leave me. But at the same time, I'm going to have to deal with the trauma of having an alcoholic father who's never around. I'm going to have a problem with, the healing the stuff from my mother who was also dealing with karmic shit. So, but this is part of being human. So it's the pros and the cons. Every time you choose a new version of yourself that you're going to become, you have pros and cons that come along with that. And it comes with the package, as they say. So if we download an imprint of a skill, can we execute that skill? Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Michelle says, I had 4 research lives. I never lived past 28. Yep. See, that's generally normal. Most people don't live past 30. Because a research life, you're not trying to really do much. You're just here getting some research. You're like, all right, I need to study being human. Let's see. Have fun with mushies dancing naked. No. No, I tend to do my mushies in private. The last place I would do psychedelics is in public at a festival. I know I've done it before, but there's a reason I say that now, because I learned from experience why it's a bad idea. So no, I tend to like being in my comfort zone when I partake. Dolores said there are heaps of souls lining up to choose a handicapped body as it clears so much karma. Yes. It clears karma, it heals all kinds of stuff within the psyche. And to have that much like stuff going on in one lifetime, you make leaps and bounds. It's like you skip third grade kind of thing and go ahead again, you know? Just reading through the comments. Kara says, I'd love to know why I chose the family I did that I had to walk away from. So much trauma and no trust fund. Oh, Kara, it is hard to be a starseed here because there's not many starseed families. You think you had to wait a long time for a handicapped body to have a family that is supportive and loving and spiritually awakened is quite rare these days. I mean, it's getting less rare, but I mean, there's certain people in your lifetime that you choose for a reason. Like they're the one that is there to kind of awaken you for a purpose. So it doesn't have to be everybody. But no, sometimes families are quite literally just the portal to bring us in here. And, especially in regards to karma, you don't want to have any resentment towards them. Also, keep in mind that a lot of these families are, especially Earthseed families, they've known each other for hundreds and hundreds of incarnations, some of them. So they've already kind of have a thing where they just have an understanding, and then yeah, they'll agree. They're like, okay, yeah, I'll bring in a starseed, but they're not going to understand the starseed. And they're not going to have a history with that starseed. So many times they're like, yeah, you can come in, but they won't have that bond because that bond between them takes multiple lifetimes to build. Whenever you meet somebody and you feel like you've known that person all your life, you probably fucking have, just not this life, probably another life. Anytime you meet, I got goosebumps when I said that. Anytime you meet somebody that you feel you've known a really long time, that's why. Courtney says, so if I'm a Pleiadian, how could I have had an Arcturian lifetime but go back to Pleiadian? Wouldn't they be more evolved or advanced? Keep in mind, there are hundreds, if not maybe even thousands of different types of Pleiadians out there. I mean, I know probably about 15 different Pleiadian races just off the top of my head. So yeah, there's there's a broad range. I mean, if you think about it, in fact, it kind of makes me laugh, right? Where I was talking with Zach one day, Adriana's guide. He's a Salation Pleiadian, and they're one of the most high vibrational Pleiadians out there, right? And I was talking with him about the Engen people, and he said, well, the Engen Pleiadians, those are the Viking Pleiadians. He goes, they're still pretty young. They're still kind of like babies in a way. He meant it in a nice way, but he's like on the development levels, consciousness development level, they're kind of like babies in a way. And I laughed and I was like, well, what the fuck does that make humans? Like embryos? Like if an Engen Pleiadian is a baby, we're like a thought in the dad's mind. Like we're like still in sperm form. Because wow, we are way less evolved technically than the Engen people are. So yeah, even among the Pleiadians, you got big differences in between. And it's all a matter of perspective. Like if you were to ask the Engen people where they are with the Salations, they'll probably be like, oh yeah, we're almost there. We're getting there, Like they probably don't think of themselves as that, different. So it's all about vibration and frequency and experience. What about Syrians? Syrians are very powerful builders. They're the ones that built Egypt and big chunks of Atlantis. And it depends. Like Syrians are a broad mix. You get a broad mix of all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of different Syrians because you get Sirius A, Sirius B, Sirius C. And even just on one of those three planets, Sirius A, B, and C, you have tons of different races that kind of mix in between on those too. So it's kind of like Avalon and Lyra. This is where all the original humans came from, was Avalon and Lyra. This is in the Vega star system. And then there's tons of other races that have also come from that. The Irma were basically evolved on the same planet we did. Sirius A tends to be the ones with the Egyptians. Yeah, that copper skin, those are Sirius A. Sirius C are more like African type skin tone. They're darker. Sirius C and Sirius B are not even humanoids technically. They are cetacean races. The Tagetans are they're about the same, I think, as the Yangan. Tagetans come from the planets Era and Temur. I'm from Era originally. So yeah, you get all kinds of different races and from all kinds of different, and keep in mind too that there's also like timeline issues too with these places. Like sometimes when you come from a system, like you can come from Mintaka, but Mintaka was destroyed, right? Mintaka is a planet that was in the Orion star system. So it was actually a positive planet that was in the same area that the Lizzies and the Matra Greys are from. So it's like they came from a shady neighborhood, so to speak, but they're pretty cool. So the Mintakans, their planet was destroyed. And so, but if you go into other timelines, it's still there technically. So it's almost like you get old versions and new versions coming from different timelines and merging together. And then one might be less advanced or differently advanced and all kinds. I mean, it is complicated. Has anyone made a directory of species? Yeah, the Russians. The Russians have the best one. Yep. The Russians databated all of this stuff is in a database and has been since the 60s, 70s. So I forget, anybody know what what is it called? That declassified government document was from the Russians? What was that called again? So that she can Google it. I forget. I've read it before though, no, I can't remember. I'm still looking for anyone who has a connection to Iman Gaia. Well, this is why if you go on Adriana's website and you see a chat with Zach, that is what those are for. So you guys, if you want to know things about galactic history, if you want to know things about, all that weird planetary history and about star seeds and different races, Zach is your guy. He answers all kinds of questions. How much do you know about Alcyon? Katie and I are deeply connected to a sisterhood in Alcyon who I miss dearly. Alcyon is, isn't that one of the Greek planets? I think the Greek gods are from there. No, that was Atlas. Where's Alcyon? I know it's in the Pleiades. I'm trying to think of who's from Alcyon. If you typed it in on Svaru, if you go to Svaru. I'll type it in, let's see. So if you go to svaru.org, and then you just type in any word you want to search, such as Alcyon, it'll come up in Spanish. Hold on, I just looked again. Yeah, there's tons of councils in Alcyon as well. So there's a lot of Pleiadian councils. The Federation, the Council of Alcyon, is supposedly one of the different. So if you go down to there's I'll share it here. So if you guys are interested in learning about the different types, I'll share a link. Come on. So I'm trying to get to it. All right. So I can't fucking find it. Why won't it let me copy? Normally it lets me. Oh well, sorry about that. So yeah, if you go on svaru.org, you'll be able to find it. But there's different ET races up, and I'll just share it with you so that you guys can. find it. Because Alcyon is mentioned 193 times. 193 times, but the number one most time it's mentioned, it seems to be, is in the extraterrestrial races one. So here it is. Here's the link for that. So if you guys are interested, you can read about it as well. I just sent you the link so that way that you guys can read it, or you can watch the video at the top and then. Laura, did you start watching Marie's videos again? No, that's why I only do the old ones. The old ones are not compromised. The new ones are. I'm still trying to find out why they're compromised. I think somebody hacked her channel. Either that, it could be the Federation just stole it. I have no idea. No clue. Because that one video that they put out about Arcturians recently, oh my God, that was so inaccurate. It was painful. I hang out with Arcturians. I have 2 friends that are Arcturian. They're nothing like they described at all. And I was watching, I was like, what the fuck? So I don't know what's going on. It's like the videos went from completely accurate to completely inaccurate, and I have no idea what happened. So that's why, if you notice, I'm only still sharing the old stuff. Yeah. So the old stuff is still good. The old stuff, it still resonates, and I've fact-checked quite a lot of it with my guides. Because like I've mentioned before, I have trust issues. So I'm always trying to figure out. Do you watch Elizabeth April's content? No, because she's very pro-Federation. Anyone that is pro-Federation, you're on my watch list. Like, Christine says Bashar is compromised. Yeah, ever since he started promoting the you know what, the C-jab, I immediately was like, nope, bye. So what I think happens is I think they get infiltrated. Exactly, Stephanie. Once you end up really famous, I don't know what happens. It's almost like I don't know. It's like you get brainwashed, or maybe the fame goes to your head and the ego gets in the way, or maybe it's just fucking imposters. How do we know it's not an imposter? Or he could have been lulling us into, this is also a lot of things. What happened is that sometimes we get lulled into a false sense of security. Alex Jones did this for years, right? Where Alex Jones would be pumping out accurate information. And people can sense the accuracy. They can feel the accuracy of it, right? And then all of a sudden they start mixing in bullshit. And I'm like, why is all this? What is this even going on here? So they have to speak in half truths, right? They get in there by, telling you the truth so you resonate with it, and then they sneak in bullshit to kind of muddy the water and confuse things. So you really have to be careful with shills and who you get your information from. I've been disappointed so many times for this reason. So, and don't get me wrong, like, I love Bashar. Bashar was instrumental in my awakening. Like, his original videos, I still quote stuff from it. Like shifting from parallel reality to parallel reality. That was such a great analogy. Like, he did amazing things. But at the same time, you're like, what the hell happened? Because all of a sudden things changed completely. So I try to just take what resonates. That's what Dolores would say. Like, knowledge is a buffet. You take what resonates and you leave the rest. If it doesn't resonate, then that's fine. Lisa says he infiltrated Bohemian Grove. Now, see, that in itself is a major red flag, because they have had infrared cameras in those woods. Keep in mind that this is like one of the most sacred, most secret, most private places for the cabal on the entire planet. So for those of you who don't know what it is, Bohemian Grove is a redwood grove in California where the cabal have, like, it's like a summer camp. It's essentially what it is, the summer camp for the elite. And they all had fancy cabins, and they would dress up like transvestites and go and have a big party together because no women were allowed anywhere near the property. So if women were not allowed on the property and they had massive security, I mean, like Ronald Reagan used to go there every winter, or sorry, no, every summer with Nixon and all that crew. Like it used to be a lot bigger of a deal than it is now. But originally they would go there to do like sacred ceremonies. And some of these ceremonies, like the cremation of care ceremony, was actually like they would burn effigies of children. And probably in the beginning, they may have already done that. So what happens is like they show up there, they have this big party, big ceremony, and Alex Jones tells everybody that he snuck in there with a camera, recorded them in the middle of their cremation of care ceremony, and then he got out again with the footage. Like, no, if he wasn't invited in and allowed to film that footage, people would not, he would never have become famous. Like that is what made him famous. So all these people were like, what? This is crazy. How did he do this? Oh my God, he's so cool. And that is what really put Alex Jones on the map in the first place. And nothing happened to the cabal. Nothing. Like they don't give a shit. They don't care that he got the footage. In fact, they probably got to brag about it. I wouldn't be surprised if they told him to go in there, and be like, because that's what they do. A lot of times they show us what they do. And it's a way of actually relinquishing karma for certain things that they do to us. Because if they do it to us and they openly admit it in the movies, or if they openly admit it by not denying it, then they're shirking the karma because we're not doing anything about it. They're like, yeah, I did it. And what? So no, and keep in mind, like, I know Alex Jones personally. I've spent time with him personally. I've had arguments with Alex Jones, like in person. He would know me. If we bumped into each other on the street, he would probably groan as soon as he saw my face. Because there was one time, one of the very first rallies that I went to for 9/11, this was back in 2006, 2007. Alex would always show up and we would be having a great meeting. Everything would go really well. And Alex would come in with his bullhorn and chase everybody away or cause big drama. In fact, one time we were at this rally and we were doing we were all holding candles. We were doing a candlelight vigil. And Alex shows up in the middle of the candlelight vigil and it's being led by an aunt who lost her nephew in the towers, right? And she tells Alex, like, this is we're trying to do a sacred, like, private thing here. Do you mind? And what did he do? He got his bullhorn and got in her face and was like, you'll never get rid of me. Like screaming in this woman's face. And she's like, I just want my ceremony to be, respected. And he was so nasty and rude and it ruined the whole thing. Like that's what Alex would do. He would show up and ruin everything every time you show up. People will be arguing and drama. That is not normal. So I think that's what he was there to do. I think he was there to discredit and to make us kind of shift the attention. He lowered the vibe of the space every time he showed up. So no, I 100%, there is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that Alex Jones is controlled opposition. Absolutely no doubt. Like zero doubt. Like maybe he's a narcissist. Maybe he's a narcissist at the shill, 100%. Like I have no doubt. So anyway, sorry to go off on a rant about Alex Jones, but I know him personally. I know him better than most people do. And I don't think he's changed that much in the last few years. In fact, he seems to be more obnoxious now than he used to be, which is really saying something. But ever since he got in the face of that aunt with the bullhorn, nope. That's when I screamed at him, actually. I hear out louder than the bullhorn for a minute. Like, I was so mad. Anyway, end of rant. But this is why you should never bring up Alex Jones around me. Was he sober at the time? Yeah, he was. I've seen him drunk and sober, so I know the difference. And yeah, he at one time with the bullhorn, he was completely fucking sober. He just likes the attention. He's the biggest attention whore I've ever met in my life. What about David Icke? I don't know him personally. I've never met David Icke. I don't really like his book, The Trap. I think his book, The Trap, is complete disinfo. And I don't know where he got that information from. But other than that, I have no problem with him. Lisa says, loved your rant. Thank you. Mwah, Lisa. So yeah, like I said, there's going to be amazing people in this community that you once you get to know them behind closed doors without a camera on, you're like, damn, this person is not the person I thought they were. That's happened a couple times to me. Michael Tellinger is another one of those times. I went all the way to South Africa to help Michael Tellinger and to run his eco village for him. And he was the biggest narcissist I ever met. And a psycho. He's straight up psychopath. And I was like, oh, look at this guy. He's so charismatic on YouTube. He's so nice and charismatic and he wants to do good things in the world. And then I go there and oh my God, like scariest man ever. It's like Jessica says, exactly. Never meet your heroes. So anyway, I'm not trying to talk smack today. I'm just saying, like, just be mindful that sometimes the people that you see on YouTube are not what you think they are in person. And I've had to learn that over and over and over and over again. Like that is one of the most painful lessons of my life that I keep repeating is where I find somebody and I'm like, this person's amazing. And then I get to know them and I'm like, they're so mean. Like, what's happening? So, Helen says Joe Rogan. Never met him, but he's interesting. My mind is kind of, I'm 50-50 on Joe Rogan. We should do a mashup of Alex Jones and Randy Macho Man. Can you imagine? Oh my God. So anyway, I if somebody resonates with you, like I truly believe that every person in the world has knowledge that is worth hearing. Every single one of us. So obviously, you know, it doesn't matter who it's coming from, whether or not you resonate with it and whether or not you were meant to believe it is entirely up to you and fate. So sometimes you receive information, you're like, this sounds like complete bullshit. And then 5 years later, you receive the same information, you're like, oh, now I understand this. So it's different for everybody. Like the David Icke stuff, you know, people told me like 20 years ago, was it, about David Icke? I think it was when I was doing 9/11 stuff, probably about 2006, 2005 even, where I first heard about reptilians and I thought it was complete batshit crazy. I used to block David Icke supporters from my page. As soon as they start talking about reptilians, I'd be like, oh, here we go, block. Because I thought they were full of shit. I was like, there's lizards that control the planet? Space lizards. You want me to believe in space lizards? So no, I would block David Icke supporters all the time. I was actually quite rude to David Icke supporters. I'd be like, you're all making us look bad, you know? Yeah. So this is why I say, like, isn't it funny 10 years later how differently we receive information? It took me actually seeing a reptilian to believe it. Seeing is believing, as they say. So I saw a reptilian during an astral projection experience. And to this day, it's one of the most shocking things I've ever seen in my entire life. So, as you know, Taurus, born in the year of the ox, I'm very stubborn. My own guides had to pull me out of body and show me that reptilians were real because I rejected the information so much originally. Oh, God. Can you imagine what it would be like talking to the version of you from 20 years ago and telling yourself what you're doing now? If the future me had popped into a portal and popped into my old me, the old me would want to have future me acquitted. And like, I'd be like, call the cops, lock her up. She's nuts. She needs meds. So it's funny how much experience can come in all of this. And so, yeah, your experience really dictates your understanding of reality and how much complications can exist within that reality. So this is why I never say never about anything anymore. I try not to anyway, because every time I doubt something or I say, oh, that's impossible, inconceivable, the universe is like, hold my beer. I will prove you wrong. Just give me a second. So never say never about anything. Karen says, I hope I never see a reptilian. Well, don't go to 5D then, Karen, because that's where you'll see them. Is your birthday soon? Yes, in 2 weeks. I will be turning 40 in 2 weeks. So this is my last little hurrah from my 30s. So it's actually quite exciting that I'm to be in a place that I really love and getting to enjoy all the stuff that I did in my 20s now, 15 years later. Because I got deported from Scotland, like, what was it, 13 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. I got deported from here, actually. So it feels good to be back, I've been back quite a few times. I got friends that live here, so I visit like every 2 years or so. We usually go up by Roslyn Chapel. I know that alley, we call it, that beautiful like forest out behind Roslyn Chapel. We go for the walks down there every single year. In fact, I'm probably going on a walk there tomorrow, actually. So all these little places around, it's so nice to visit. It's like visiting my 25-year-old self without the alcohol because I don't drink anymore. I just booked my first session with you. Turned 39 this week. Awesome. Happy early birthday, Casey. So exciting. I like that you booked a session for your birthday too. You're going to feel like, all of that extra stuff. Whenever you've had your first clearing, you can feel it big time. Like you just feel so much lighter and you get all kinds of stuff released. Are you going to Beltane? Yes, that is actually why I'm here. I'm going to the Beltane Fire Festival. I'll take some pictures and post them. So any other questions? I've been chatting you guys' ears off for 90 minutes and there's still 100 of you listening. That's pretty cool. You guys must have liked my rant today. Awesome. Thank you. Hi, Joanne. Nice to see you, darling. So yeah, good fun. And I'm trying to think of what I might be forgetting. There was something I had to tell you guys about and I forgot. Oh yeah, my Zoom class. So I'm doing hold on, let me grab the link. So don't forget to check out that Lost Soul Rescue, you guys. If you didn't see the Lost Soul Rescue from yesterday, it's in my Spirit Release and Lost Soul Rescue group, the recording, so that way you guys can check it out. And let's see. And then keep in mind that I have a class that I'm going to be doing when I get back, 2 days after I get back. So it's about a week away. That is my psychic protection class, psychic protection and spiritual hygiene 101. And that is going to be all about psychic protection, basically everything that I've learned from the guides about psychic protection, spiritual hygiene. And this is a prerequisite for the Spirit Release course. If you want to take my Spirit Release course, you really need this course, or at least one of my psychic protection courses. If you took it in the past, that's fine. You've learned enough. If you've taken somebody else's psychic protection course, cool. That works too. That's completely fine. As long as you know how to handle yourself, I should say, then you're fine. But if you've never taken any form of psychic protection course and you want to take the Spirit Release course, then you need to do both. When are you doing the Spirit Release? I think I'm doing it the 23rd and 24th of May. I haven't confirmed that yet, which is why I haven't set up a link for that yet. It depends on several factors, including when I have the class finished, because there's still some things I want to add. There's always more to add, especially because it's going to be a 2-day class. It's going to be the 23rd and 24th, I believe, or maybe it's the 24th and 25th. Anyway, it's over that weekend. And so the first day is going to be 4 hours, and so is the second. The first day, we're going to be talking all about, the different things that we clear. And then we're going to go more into like the more complicated stuff and how you can take it deeper. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things that I have never discussed on the podcast before in both classes, because there's just so much information you can't possibly get through it all very easily. I won't be able to take that current SRT class. I'll be in a Cali Roots festival then. Well, the introduction to Spirit Release can be done through the recording. So as long as you watch the recording, it's fine. You don't have to actually take that class live. The only one that you do have to take live is the Reiki and the Spirit Release facilitator and mediumship training, like the practitioner training we're going to do. because the spirit release practitioner training is going to be separate. I'm doing that in June, and that is when I teach you how to be a medium and a facilitator to do spirit release. So the introduction to spirit release is all about what we clear, what we go looking for, and stuff like that. And then the second part is how to be a practitioner, how to remove it. Your guides will get training as well, and that is when we're going to go much more in depth into how to be a medium and a facilitator. And I've decided I'm going to do things differently to, like, the Academy and Katie and others, because a lot of times they like to teach those separately. But I want to teach the mediums and the facilitators together. And the reason for that is, one, there's a lot of facilitators that are mediums. You just don't know that you're mediums yet. And you'd be surprised how quickly your mediumship will develop as a facilitator. So my mediumship has gone through the roof. It has quadrupled in the year that I've been doing facilitating. So this is why we have the 2-part. So I think that, and then there's also actually going to be a 3rd part where I'm teaching about psychic surgery. So technically, yeah, there's going to be 3 parts for mine as well. But the psychic surgery one is going to be probably towards the end of the summer, because I want that one to be extremely detailed. So I really like the fact that we would be training mediums and facilitators together, because, one, you guys can kind of pair up. You're going to meet people in class that you really like, because we're going to be doing practice sessions. And so when you're doing practice sessions, you're going to, tune in with other mediums. You're going to be like, that medium is awesome. I want to work with that medium. And then you get to know each other better and kind of get to know your other mediums. And I'm going to have multiple different mediums assisting me with the training. So you'll get to see an example of like a trance medium and several other different types of mediums, like evidential mediums and other types, because there's different types of mediums that do this work. Not everybody goes into a trance. Some people actually stay completely, with it, where the medium is basically like completely tuned in and doing the clearing with the guide. And then other times the guide is like doing all the work and the medium's asleep. Like the medium is completely out asleep. So, may I message you to make sure I'm signing up for all that I need? Of course. I have the amazing Charisse that is helping me with messages. Thank you so much, Charisse. You've just been a godsend. I'm so grateful, because it's hard enough for me to keep up with emails. So if you want to talk to me directly, email me. Otherwise, if you just have general questions, you can just message me on the page, and Charisse is helping me keep up with those messages. But I'm the one, I always check my emails. Is the Sedona trip? I have nothing to do with the Sedona trip anymore. Katie is working with Gabby now, and that's perfectly fine, because it's giving me an opportunity to do my own thing. So anybody that's going to Glastonbury and Sedona, you'll have to ask Katie about that, because I have nothing to do with it. I still do practice sessions with Katie. Everything is really cool between us, but she wants to do her thing her way, and I want to do my thing my way. So everything happens for a reason. Will you make a post with all this information? Yes, I will. The Branson, Missouri trip. That would be Bradley, Mr. Bay, who is MIA. Mr. Bay is MIA today. If you message Bradley Bay, he's got the information about the Branson, Missouri trip. And that is still a go. The podcast will resume when? I will see you guys Monday, not this Monday. I don't know. I might pop in for a visit. If you guys are subscribed to my YouTube, I might pop in to say hello. I'll do Gorilla Podcast for the next week. Because the reason I did this one today is because I'm finally checked in. I got all my stuff sorted, but I don't know what I'll be doing the rest of the week. I might be busy ghost busting. I might be out having an adventure. So I can't promise anything, but I will be back by next Monday. So I'm technically gone for 8 days with 2 days of travel. I sent you a private voice message regarding Glastonbury. Oh, I didn't see that, Amma. I'll have a check. My mom and I were planning on going to Malta, but she changed her mind. My mom changed her mind about a lot of things. So we are going to Malta. We just didn't have time. And there's too much stuff going on right now with the class to be able to go when we would like to go. So everything is kind of helter-skelter at the moment. So if there's any other questions, feel free to email me or to drop me a message. So I love you guys, and I will see you guys at least by next Monday. But if you subscribe to my YouTube, then you'll get an easier notification for when I do go live. Because if you subscribe to the YouTube that has the same channel name, then you get an instant notification, whereas Facebook notifications suck. They never let you know when I go on. So I might pop in and tell you guys about some of the clearings I've been doing. Otherwise, I will see you in 8 days. Mwah! I love you guys. I miss you already. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you guys soon. Much love. Bye, everyone.